Hello and welcome back to the Overdue Sports Show, episode 10 of the Overdue Sports Show. Yeah, we made it double digits. I'm your host, Jake Sawinski, accompanied by, as always, Will Massa. Will, we got to 2,000 followers on our Twitter channel, so big shout out to the
Big time.
followers and then you. So you do most of the Twitter work, so good job. Congratulations. Thank you for the hard work of posting those home runs from random kids I don't know playing it somewhere out west, playing baseball.
Yeah, it's big time. Shout out to everyone over the we basically doubled growth in the last 2.5 months. So that's pretty crazy given that first calendar year I was basically just tweeting to nobody for 365 days. So
Now we traded it in for talking and writing to no one until that picks up some steam too. But yes, great work. Um, we talk offline all the time. Like you are the marketing guy. I'm not. Like I don't even tweet for myself. So this year I'm gonna make an effort to contribute more to that once like a new season starts, because like I'm not gonna do it now because what good would that do? College football, I might be there and be square. But a lot to talk about. The remaining conference tournaments are on deck. The first four that we're going to talk about, either we don't have a huge opinion on, or no one will really have a huge opinion on them. And a couple of them started, but like they started today, so nothing will be missed out of any of these conferences, the first couple. Would you agree with that sentiment?
yeah, that's exactly why we didn't do these ones yesterday. That's why we did all the Power Fives and the big ones yesterday. So that way we could get to today and we didn't have to bog down the big episode with four conferences that quite frankly are both not exciting and like realistically who's really paying attention to these.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got a gambling text about some worst bet ever, and I'm sure that's definitely the case. So, no more distractions. Yeah, I would be shocked if anyone tuned in for our analysis on the whatever conference we did. Yesterday was a blur, but the clip I put out did say like, "Hey, you should just watch these like to laugh at us because like you should." It was some good stuff there. But let's get right to it. Everyone's favorite Monday night February conference, the SWAC. That started this afternoon. Alabama A&M University got thumped by Grambling State. I actually did make a play in this conference. I don't imagine you did, but
I'm shocked that you did.
yeah. Well, our guy Rob Donaldson, he loves the conference tournament futures, and he's really good at them. So like, um, his betting style, like most of his game plays that he does throughout the season, aren't typically the way I bet. I probably should bet like him because he's really good and I'm not good. So maybe that's an adjustment for next year. But I watched his video yesterday and he's like, I like Bethune Cookman or Alcorn State. And I'm like, I don't really know anything about this conference whatsoever besides that, like, you could get a game that's 95 to 99 or a game that's 42 to 40. I've bet on Alcorn a few times. Like, their record is not deceivingly bad because they are bad, but like, it's that one really bad team in the conference, Mississippi Valley State. They're like 5-15 at the time, and they were laying 18, and they got won by like 40. So I'm like, well, I mean, if I'm gonna give away money, I might as well take a one that A, he endorses it, and B, it's like priced a little longer. So maybe I'll get a hedge out there. So I just went with the longer one there, but nothing special to write home about. Neither of us have an intelligent opinion on this conference.
Now, if you put a gun to my head, I'd probably say Bethune Cookman, just because when I do bet this conference, that's usually the team that I gravitate towards. Other than that, I don't really touch anybody in this conference. Sometimes Texas Southern in a yucky spot, but
I think they've made it out of this conference the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think they were in a 16 seed last year, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I don't really have anything insightful, to be honest with you. This is not a conference I typically watch, even though they're like the only games on Mondays that are on.
Yeah, it's
I
like
try
that in a
to.
Big 12 game, like two Big 12 games, an ACC game, and SWAC.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Alcorn is 12-1. Bethune-Cookman is 650. So
Yeah,
might
I
be
had
something
like
that they do play in the
650.
first round though. They play each other in the quarterfinals tomorrow. So
Okay, so we'll know right away. Like if it's priced a little short, um, maybe I can just clean that one up and just make it a wash. I don't know. Whatever. Moving on to the MAAC. We call it the MAAC because two A's in there, the Mid-Atlantic Athletic Conference. I like this one a little better. Of the four kind of throwaway conferences, we'll call them, like this is the one that's the most intriguing to me just because this is like a Friday night staple instead of the Monday SWAC. But I think there's a couple of teams to look at in this conference, and I'll let you kick it off. What are you thinking?
yeah, I mean, I'm a big Marist backer, specifically in the regular season. I think you mentioned like they're really we talked about this before we started. Like they're really frustrating and they're not that good, but they are the 3 seed in this. But they're 7th in the betting odds. They're 12-1. So I mean, that's really long for a 3 seed. I would still probably look that way just because I like that team. That's a team that I typically bet. Another team that has the ability to just like screw things up specifically in this conference play is Manhattan. They're the 5 seed and they're plus 600 to take this. So those would be two that I would look at. But this is always one that I just feel like is kind of anybody's. I think Quinnipiac was really good last year, comparatively really good last year. I
Yeah,
should
them and
rephrase that.
Fairfield, I think, were the two
Yes.
better teams in this
Yep.
conference last year.
Fairfield is the 10th seed, so not too
Yeah,
hot
they're
this year.
bad this
But
year.
yeah, the Jaspers might be a sneaky one to look at here.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Like Manhattan, I guess you could say kind of turned around their season from last year because I think last year they
They were
would have been
horrible.
toward the bottom for sure. And it's 6-1 in a conference that I feel like is kind of wide open. I feel like that's not a bad way to go. Quinnipiac isn't as good as they typically are. Typically, they're at the top of this conference, along with St. Peter's has been up there the last couple of years. Fairfield last year, I think it was those two, if not those two, like those two and another team were in the mix to actually win this tournament. I don't actually remember who made it out of this conference last year, but I think it was St. Peter's, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think they did. I don't think it was Quinnipiac that got out,
I
or
don't
was it
think. I think it.
Merrimack? It may have
No, I
been
thought it
Merrimack.
was. I thought St. Peter's ended up winning that game.
They,
I could be wrong though. I
I
don't
think you're
quite
right.
remember.
St. Peter's did not make the conference tournament this year.
Yeah, they're not good. I knew that for sure. But it's also hard to ignore the first seed Merrimack. They're the 1 seed, right? And the favorite on.
No, Merrimack is the betting favorite as the 2 seed, and then
Oh, okay.
Quinnipiac is the
The
1
1
seed.
seed.
But they're
Yeah.
260 and 290 to win.
Mhm. I'd be more inclined to take Merrimack in this tournament, more so than Quinnipiac, just because, I think Quinnipiac is kind of that name everyone recognizes from this conference as being pretty good most of the time. But Manhattan is kind of intriguing me too. And like you mentioned, we did talk about Marist. Like I feel like that's like one of those yucky contrarian teams that always seem to come through. Like that would be a team I like to bet on a lot because they're not really that good, but they're getting, short favorite numbers in a bad spot and they still come through. But even that stopped a little bit, early February. So we're not going to harp on this conference too much more, but I think Manhattan is something we can both get behind, a team we can both get behind there.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Everyone's favorite, the MEAC. I will not be betting Maryland Eastern Shore. I will not bet Maryland Eastern Shore. South Carolina State is the second odds. Okay. Well, Howard is the name everyone typically recognizes out of this conference. And they're at 13-1, depending on like where you're looking. It's probably ballpark the same, 12-1, 13-1. I think that's really long for a team that's in third. So to me, it's either Norfolk State or South Carolina State, and I would probably just chalk this one up. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's funny because Howard is the 4 seed. I would actually look that way, but they're playing some really bad basketball right now, and I wouldn't want to back a team that has lost. I believe they've lost 4 straight heading into this conference tournament. I know they lost the last 2. 12-1, maybe. They've showed flashes. It's always a pretty solid offense for the most part, but this is not really something I would look at betting either. Although this one is funky though, because there's no buys in this tournament, so you get that advantage on it.
Yeah,
So
if
even if
those
you
top
find a
seeds
good
drop
one, yeah.
yeah.
So very open, but yeah, again, not really looking to bet the MEAC, but
Yeah, I mean, I would compare Howard to that Colgate, kind of in that same
yes.
spot, like kind of
Yep.
undervalued based on the odds all season, even though they're not really that good, but typically they're a team that makes it out of that draw. So, and Colgate lost to the team I bet on in the Patriot League, the American Eagles. So, gun to my head, I would probably be inclined to keep that same sentiment. So, this is one I will not be wagering on, and I'm sure none of you are either. Last of the duds, the WAC, the Western Athletic Conference. That one also started today. Southern Utah lost to Utah Valley.
Utah
6-25, or I'm sorry, Utah Tech. Utah Valley is a real team, though. I didn't just make that up. I think they're in an entirely
they're the 1
different
seed.
conference. Oh no,
they're
okay, they're in this conference. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't look any further than Cal Baptist, and that might even be too low. This conference is really, really stinky this year, and Grand Canyon is always that contender out of this conference. Like last year, I think it was, or maybe the year before. That was a real popular 12-5 matchup between Gonzaga and Grand Canyon, and Grand Canyon got smoked. So
they were really good that year. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they started 20-0 or 20-1. Like
they
that
were
team was
really,
a wagon.
yeah, and the expectation was that they were going to be really good again this year, and I think they beefed up their schedule a little bit, and it didn't pan out as well for them. I wouldn't say they're a bad team, like relative to like who they're playing most of the time, but I felt like at least in the betting community, it seemed like, hey, this is kind of a sneaky good team that could go upset like an Arizona State or a Penn State, a team like that. I just don't think that's the case this year, but it's pretty hard for me to look any other direction besides the 1 or 2 seed in this conference as well.
Yep, I'm absolutely with you. And just looking at some numbers from the regular season, Grand Canyon was a 9-point favorite against Utah Valley at home and a 3-point dog at Utah Valley. I think that's pretty telling that it's going to be these 2 teams. I think they're by far the 2 best teams. I do think Grand Canyon has the harder road, given that they would draw either Cal Baptist or Tarleton. And then you've got Utah Valley, who will either get Abilene or Seattle. So if you were looking to bet it, I mean, I know it's the 1 seed, but they're not the odds favorite. They're plus 240 in Utah Valley. So you might be able to get them there. And if you were to take Grand Canyon, you'd probably have a hedge spot because I imagine Utah Valley will be the favorite in the finals.
Yeah, I would imagine so too. Now, Seattle being third odds on favorite is interesting to me. Not because I think they're good, but like this is a team that I've bet on multiple times throughout the year, like laying pretty big numbers for their record. You know, they kind of chat my ass a lot because it's like they're in that -7, -10 spot, and then they lose outright. So like they were pretty frustrating to me. I feel like maybe that is a sneaky hedge spot there, right? Like I feel like most people think that they're really bad, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that, but being 5-1 was a little surprising to me. I thought they were a lot worse than they actually are, according to the odds, anyways.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, let's move on to a more compelling conference here. The A10. I got to shut my window. It's noisy. I'll be right back. I'll let you kick it off.
All right, the A10, we've got 14 teams in this thing. I'm just going to run through some odds. We got VCU as the 1 seed at -120. We've got George Mason as the 2 seed +450. Dayton at +500. St. Joe's at 8-1. Loyola Chicago at 14-1, the Bonnies 18-1, St. Louis 21-1, George Washington 22-1. That's about as far as I would go because Duquesne is the 9 seed at 60-1. VCU is solid again. They just play really good defense. It's kind of that classic VCU style that they play. They finished the regular season on a loss to Dayton, who was really solid early on and kind of stumbled through the middle of the year. There's some interesting teams in this one that I would look at. One that was pretty better friendly, especially for me this year, that I bet pretty often was George Mason. Another one that I bet on a lot this regular season was George Washington. They covered a ton. They actually won some games outright as like 9-10 point dogs. So those are two teams that I would look at. I probably like Mason of the two just because they have to play one less game. This is also a tournament that gets multiple buys. So George Mason, if things go to chalk, George Mason and George Washington would play in the quarterfinals. So you could also have a hedge out spot there. But those would be the two I would look at, would be George Mason at plus 450 and George Washington 22-1.
I love that George Washington pick as well. I think I'm going to play that. 27-1 seems really long for a team that was mostly competitive in this tournament too. I think a lot of attention is going to be on VCU and George Mason. Like, I'm not saying they aren't going to win, because like they're solid teams, VCU and George Mason especially. I think Dayton has some life too, just because you said they had a lull in the middle of the season, but I feel like they've been playing a lot better in the back end of the season. And I mean, some recency bias, they just beat VCU. There's no reason why they couldn't do it again. Like, that was a VCU spot, I felt, and they won. If they didn't, did they end up winning outright? Yeah, they did. You said that. Mm-hmm. Another team I'm looking at though is St. Joe's. I think this team really took a step up this year, and they've had, like, they beat Villanova at home. They play that game every year, and Villanova typically waxes them. But I do like St. Joe's. They've been pretty friendly to me this year as well. And at 8-1, I feel like they could be pretty frisky for like that middle price dog in a tournament. You know, that's like one where they could, hey, we're at the semifinals and VCU slipped up and lost to Loyola at the buzzer or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I like, they're looking at me funny too. Those two especially, but
they're interesting because of the way that they play, their style. They play that fast-paced, like bomb threes offense. They were like that last year too. They were just worse. So they're like a better team with that same style. It could be interesting. That style of play can catch the higher seeds, especially in a tournament like this. So I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't hate that spot at all.
And they might have the best guard in the conference in that, what's his name? Reynolds the second or something. I think it's something with an R, but that kid's number 2 on St.
Eric Reynolds. Yes.
Eric Reynolds. Yeah, that's it. He's really good. He's one of the best players in that conference. So good guard play. We always talk about how important that is come conference tournament and March Madness time. I mean, I wouldn't even fault you taking a stab at a team like Bonnie's, St. Bonaventure. Like, I feel like they played really well for stretches, right? Like, they'd win 4 in a row, drop 4 in a row, win 4 in a row, drop 3 in a row, like that. But Duquesne being 75-1 as a team that struggled early, like really struggled early. They've been playing a lot better. 75-1 is pretty insane for them, though, especially winning that conference last year. I don't think you're getting a good deal on betting Duquesne. Could be wrong. Like, they could make it to the semifinal. Like, they've competed with at least everybody in this conference, right? I don't know if they beat VCU or Dayton outright, but I think they lost to Dayton by 1, if I remember correctly. I bet them plus 10. I remember that game. They had a money line too. They almost won. Gave up a bucket at the horn. But I mean, Davidson is another familiar name who's really bad. Rhode Island was interesting too. I thought they were like started out really well, and then 100-1. Richmond's another very well-known name from here. I think the bottom of the barrel in the A10 is really bad. Like if you want to give away some money and be like, hey, maybe Duquesne can go on a run again, by all means. Like I think they have it in them. I just don't think it's going to happen. But I wouldn't go any further than that. This conference is poised for some craziness at the top half. I don't see a LaSalle or it's certainly not Fordham. I don't see a LaSalle or a UMass going on a run this year. That's just me.
Yeah.
And if it's a team that goes on a run, I can't imagine it'll be those two. So love the A10 though. They're like either really good or really yucky games. There's no in between.
Usually a conference they give me absolute fits in the regular season. I hate betting that conference.
No, I love the A10.
So
it's very, very enjoyable experience for me because I love unders. Very enjoyable experience. The American. All eyes are going to be on Memphis in this one, and I think there are a couple of teams that could knock them off because they didn't have a great conference schedule. That is for sure. They did lose early to Sun Belt runner-up Arkansas State, and they dropped a couple of games they probably shouldn't have all season. Like they didn't really, for a team that was ranked to start the season and team with high expectations, they kind of, not saying they lost a lot of conference games, but they certainly struggled in some of them. What are your thoughts on the American?
This one's tough for me because I just I'm usually a big UAB guy. They're not that good this year. Mm-hmm. North Texas is just gross. Like the way that they play basketball is just a really disgusting style of basketball.
Effective though.
Yeah, it's very effective. Yeah, like they'll just win 48-46 kind of deal. So I don't know. This is one that I actually didn't think there was somebody down the list. I mean, I don't know that Memphis is going to win, but when I look down the list, there's not anyone that sticks out to me. The only team that I think is like long shot interesting could be Wichita. They did beat Memphis in the regular season. I know that. I think they beat North Texas as well, and I want to say they split with them.
I know one of them did.
I know they hung around with them in both of them. They may have split, but I don't think they're that good.
That's kind of the thing with this conference. I'm looking at the board as well, and I don't really think any of these teams are all that good outside of the top two. But yeah. I think just the way the conference season turned out, I feel like anybody could still, make it to the semifinals. Like a team that's looking at me kind of funny is Temple. Not really sure why, because they really clunked in the second half of conference play after having a pretty good start. I believe they beat Memphis. And at 40-1, I don't know. It's just kind of looking at me weird. Wichita State, I kind of agree with what you were saying. It's kind of the same boat as Temple, right? Like you wouldn't say they're really good, and they kind of the opposite, right? Like where they started out slow and played a little better in the back half. But like the middle, UAB wasn't terribly impressed with them all season. Florida Atlantic got crushed in the portal. I mean, your coach left, your center left. John L. Davis is playing at Arkansas, and I think just from a betting perspective, everyone kind of remembered, hey, FAU's been really good the last couple of seasons. And then it's middle of November, and we're like, oh, yeah, that's not even the same team. They're 12-1. That's a little short to me, but they just didn't pass the eyeball test for me. But this one's a little weird because I just can't seem to narrow it down. Something's telling me that someone's going to knock off one of those top two in the quarterfinal or the semifinal, but I just don't know who's going to substitute for them. Could be chalk all the way through. I just have that inkling that it's not going to be, but I can't narrow it down on who has a viable chance. I'm not sure.
That's exactly how I felt. There in a lot of these conferences, we can say, oh, it's probably the one or two, but here's a couple of teams that have been competitive and that I like. I don't really have any of those in this. I don't really there's nobody that really sticks out where I'm like, I would legitimately look that way.
Yeah,
And I
take a
really,
shot.
yeah, and there's not, and the odds are too low for me to want to take a shot on Memphis or North Texas, which are probably the most likely as 1 and 2 seeds. There's just nobody else that impressed me enough through the regular season that like would give me the inkling that to take a stab on.
Yeah, and like Tulane being 20-1 is surprising to me too, because I thought they were kind of poopy all year. But like maybe it's tough playing them at home because they were in a lot of those +3, +4 spots, on the road. USF was another team that was always in that spot, but they're like just bad. I feel like the sports books just gave them a little respect all season against whoever they played and just folded like a cheap tent. Didn't Tulsa have a big win against somebody? Wichita State? Yeah, like this conference was kind of wild all season, but like just the way some of these super long shots are priced, I'm struggling to back any of them. So it's like I'm not really
I'm
sure.
with
I don't
you.
know if I'd have a play in this conference, but Temple's just looking at me funny. Maybe it's all those zeros, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
All right, moving on to the MAAC. This conference has also been pretty crazy all season. Outside of, is it Kent State or Akron? I always mix those two.
Akron. Akron's at the top. Although Kent State was pretty good this year too. They're the 3 seed and the second odds on.
Okay, I'm just trying to find the MAAC tournament. Oh yeah, Miami, Ohio. That was the other one because Ohio was kind of stinky. This is a huge conference with a short tournament format. A lot of teams in this conference, and a lot of the teams don't make it. But who are you gravitating towards? What are you thinking?
I'm always a big Kent State guy. Might be the recency bias. I don't even think I would look that way based on the odds. There's a team that I just love in this tournament every single year, regardless of what they're actually doing in the regular season. It's Toledo. They're 30-1. They have the ability to light it up on offense. That's what they always do. They're not that good this year, but and they're the 4 seed, but they're 30-1. They're fifth in the odds. They're the only team in the top 5 with above 10-1 odds, and they're 30-1. Makes me think they probably won't. But if they beat Ohio in the first round and Akron wins in the first round, you get Toledo versus Akron.
If
Could
they
be very
win
interesting.
If they can win that game, they might go right through.
They could catch them. Like I said, this is a team that routinely competes with Power 5 teams, and they don't this year. Like this team is not very good this year. Which makes me, just based on that price, makes me think that I'm probably dead wrong thinking that. Yeah, Kent State has my attention. I like their path, but I think it's going to be Akron. I think Akron is legitimately very solid this year. Again, they were really good last year too.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It seemed like most seasons Akron and Kent State kind of split, and I think Akron took both of them this year, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe. Yep. No, the Zips. Akron beat Kent State twice and split with Miami, Ohio.
Okay, that's what I said.
Yes, they swept
maybe
Kent State.
I did, but that's what I meant. Akron won both of them. That's what I meant to say if I didn't. To me, it's Akron or maybe like a Miami, Ohio. Ohio, they're priced a little shorter compared to like Toledo, and then Bowling Green, Eastern Michigan, and Western Michigan are way down the list. But Miami, Ohio is one of those teams where it's just like they'll run you out of the gym, or like they can't run themselves out of the gym if they were the only ones in there and the door was open. You know what I mean? Like they'll score 50 points or they'll score 90 points. Very inconsistent on offense for me. But priced at $450, and I feel like they didn't compete with the big boys all season. I don't really know. I don't know if this is one I would personally make a wager in either this season. But I felt like Ohio was little lackluster. Typically, they're at the top with Akron and Kent State kind of like competing throughout the entire conference season. And you didn't, at least in my mind, I felt like you didn't have that. And them being plus 750 might be worth something. I'm not really sure. I can't get a good read on that. I don't know if people are like, oh, Ohio sucks or, oh, Ohio's undervalued. Like, I'm not really sure what the sentiment is there. It's kind of impeding my decision making.
They did beat Akron in the regular season. They split with them. That was
Mhm.
Akron's only conference loss was Ohio.
Yeah. So, like, I think the validity is there. Like, they could, like, they're good enough to win the tournament. It's just like I said, I don't know what the public perception on them is. If people are like, "Oh, this team's not good," they're not even considering it. Then I think this plus 750 might be worth a stab there. But if people are kind of thinking along the lines of what I just said, maybe not.
Yep,
But
I'm with you.
anything else for the MAC?
That's all I got on the MAC.
We're almost there. Is the Ivy set, or are we still waiting on one more?
Still waiting.
Okay, so
let me pull up the standings. Let's do the Big West first.
you want to do the Big West first? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this conference. I don't know why, but I am. UC San Diego and UC Irvine are both really, really good teams. Like, when's the last time you saw a Big West game on ESPN that wasn't in a conference tournament or a March Madness game? Well, not March Madness. ESPN doesn't get March Madness, I don't think. But when's the last time you saw a regular season Big West game on TV? Probably never. We got one of those this year, so those two teams are really good. But something is telling me that old reliable from the Big West, UC Santa Barbara, might have some life in this tournament. Never mind, they're 40-1.
I'm with you. No, I kind of like it. I think it's their path. If you want me to be honest, I think that's why, because they have to play the extra game, which is tomorrow. So they play Bakersfield tomorrow. They draw Northridge, who is pretty solid this year through conference play.
That's like a long, sneaky long shot you could do. Northridge.
Yeah, and then they draw UC San Diego, who is like legitimately really good. So I think
they're minus 160 to win the. Yeah, and San Diego thumped Irvine when they played.
Yeah.
I don't know if they played twice or just the one time, but that was a big old thumping. Oh, to your dismay, Hawaii did not make the Big West tournament. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Shame. I don't think they were very good in basketball. They're calling for their head coach's head right now, so I don't know what's going to happen over there. No, I don't think they're very good.
They can only win on the islands. Like, they cannot win outside of Hawaii. But I can tell you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I mean, no, you're good. I mean, Irvine split with San Diego.
Okay, they did split.
Yes, they split, but San Diego crushed them at home, and Irvine beat them by like 5 in Irvine. But they lost by like 20 at UC San Diego. So, I mean, I think this one is going to be really chalk. I think this is
Hoya, California. I've been there. Yeah. Minus 160. And, yeah, I feel like it might be chalk.
18 tournament, yeah.
Yeah, but Northridge, I feel like, has a chance as well. Like, they haven't played anybody. I think they're like 21-7 or something like that. They haven't played anybody. There is one bet I know I'm going to make in this tournament, and it may or may not hit, but whoever Cal Poly plays in the first round, take the over. Just do it. Even if it doesn't hit. Like
Cal Davis.
Cal Davis.
Yep, they'll play tomorrow night.
UC Davis.
UC Davis against Cal Poly in the first round.
Maybe not. I think Davis is a little on the slow side. But yeah, to me it'd be like I'd probably play San Diego. Northridge might be worth a sprinkle too. But outside of that, yeah, this one might be a little chalky.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I stand corrected. The Ivy is set, but we don't have betting odds on it yet. So the Ivy
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm just going to transition us over to the Ivy Madness. We've got Yale as the 1 seed at 13-1 in conference play, 20-7 overall. Kind of a wagon. Honestly, they might be minus odds to win or even money. We've got Cornell as the 2, 9-5 in conference, 17-10 overall. We've got Dartmouth at the 3, 8-6, 14-13 overall, and we've got Princeton as the 4, 8-6 in conference play, 19-10 overall. Could it be Princeton again?
I don't think so. I don't think this team is actually as good as people remember them to be. They struggled a lot in conference play. They've been playing a lot better the last couple of weeks, not necessarily covering spreads, but I mean, them kind of struggling to get in was pretty indicative of that, right? I mean, Harvard wasn't really good. Like, this conference typically isn't all that good just because the academics come first and whatnot. But typically the top is pretty competitive anyways. Like, I think did Yale make it out? No, Princeton has. Like, we've been kind of waiting for we've been kind of waiting for Yale to make it out of this tournament because, like, we all thought, hey, Yale has a legitimate chance to make some noise. But then again, Princeton ended up winning the championship game 2 years ago, and then they make it to the Sweet 16. So, to me, there's one bet I'd make, and it's Dartmouth. I feel like Dartmouth has been playing the best basketball they have been all season, and they started out really poor. That much I know for a fact. What you don't have odds, but I have to imagine this probably isn't like a super long shot field. Like, I feel like you'll probably have a heavy favorite in Yale, and then Cornell, Dartmouth, and Princeton will all be kind of similarly priced. I can't imagine you'd get a huge number out of like Princeton, or Dartmouth would probably be the fourth odds on.
I would guess that too.
But I can't imagine it would be like a huge number either way. So those were the two I would bet on. I'm not sure what way you're going towards. Like, even Cornell at the 2 seed, I feel like if they don't score 80 points, they're going to struggle. Because I don't think the defense is there. Because, I mean, those guys rip. That much I do know. But
yeah. I would look at Cornell personally. They played Yale in February twice, I believe.
They played them close both times, did they not?
They played them really close at Yale. They lost by 4. When they played at home, they lost by 18 or 15, 16, and the final score was 103-88. Cornell rips. So that's probably a team I would take a stab on. They're actually playing really good basketball. They're on a 4-game win streak coming into this. They beat Brown, they beat Penn, they beat Princeton, and they beat Columbia, all by double digits. Actually, no, they beat Brown by 4, and then they rolled double digits on everybody else. But they've played solid all year. They played a decent non-con schedule. They played at Syracuse. They played at Cal. They played Illinois State. I would look that way. I'm curious to see what the odds are because I don't know what they're going to be. But if they end up being the third odds favorite, because I could see Princeton still being like the second odds favorite just based on what they've done in the past and their overall record being 20-10. If Cornell has decent odds, I may look at that just because that offense just is crazy. And if they can play just a lick of defense, they might be able to catch 1 or 2 wins in this thing and get their way there.
I would agree with that. Before we wrap up, if St. Francis wins the NEC, I'm going to be heartbroken because I never played them at 12-1, and I said I liked them. I did say that. I'll be heartbroken if they win. But Robert Morris is up 5 at halftime. Of the how many futures did I play? I guess I don't. Did you bet any of these? Are you going to make any plays for conference tournaments?
I'll probably look at the Ivies and Colorado State.
Okay. I did.
You got Troy.
I got Troy. Right? I've got American playing in the championship game, and I've got Robert Morris playing in the championship game right now. Lost to my long shot in North Florida and Jacksonville in the ASUN. Lost Purdue Fort Wayne. So if both of those teams can win, I'll be 3-3. Got Troy at 4-1. Got Robert Morris at 250, 240, 250, 260 in there. And I got American at 240. Yeah, I didn't fall for the Colgate nonsense whatsoever. I did add a couple this morning. I added Kansas and Texas A&M and Ohio State 60-1. Might get a little hedge out opportunity there. I thought I made one more. Did I make one more? I thought I added 4 this morning. Let me just double check before we wrap up because actually I think we did pretty good on time for covering 9 conferences. I added, Elkhorn State. Oh, I played Middle Tennessee in Conference USA. I forgot I did that.
I like that one. I do like that one.
I totally forgot I made that play. And I did add Boise as well. So I added 6 this morning. And I might look to add some more. I might not. It seems like my conference tournament bets have been doing much better than any other bet I've been making. I've been so ice cold. It's been like a week and a half straight. Like just get my ass kicked. Might add Xavier. I think Xavier's got a shot. No, it's not St. John's. St. John's for sure. All right, you want to sign us off? We can get the hell out of here.
That's all I got. Follow us on Twitter at Overdue Sports. Subscribe to the Substack. Subscribe to the YouTube. We'll be back next week. I don't even know what we're going to talk about that next week. Oh, I guess Selection Sunday will be on Sunday.
Selection Sunday, which is a big topic. And if NFL keeps going the way it is, like we've got plenty to talk about there too.
Yeah, next week might be the March Madness show. I think that's probably just how it's going to lay out.
Yeah, and Tiger tore his Achilles. That was sad.
I did see that. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think he's just got to hang him up.
Yeah, it's time.
It is time. It's sad, but way it goes. Time is undefeated.
That's what I got. Yeah, follow us everywhere. We'll be back next week with March Madness. It's time. See you next week.